episode 6 of Togetherness Talks, Transformative Conversations with Jason Diggs, Conflict Equals Energy. And Jason has just released a book, which you can see in the notes by that title. Let's welcome Jason on. Hello, good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Adam. Actually, it's afternoon here in Colorado, but it's really good to be here with you.
It looks nice and bright there, very different from the kind of dark London skies that they are tonight. Mm-hmm. Jason, for anyone who doesn't know, can you tell us what authentic relating is?
Authentic relating is a set of skills, practices, and tools to create really rich and meaningful relationships. And it's a way for us to grow our emotional intelligence. And the vision of authentic relating is to be able to have emotional education really in every sector of society, to be teaching people about how to have a human nervous system, how to handle their emotions, right alongside math and science to middle schoolers. That's kind of age 12 to 14 here in the States. That's the long-term vision. And honestly, I think emotional education is the much broader term that I would use. I think it's an idea whose time has come, and it's going to happen in society in the next 5 years, no matter what. And authentic relating just happens to be a curriculum that a few dozen people have worked on for the last 12 years or so, and so that's what I did in the book, is that I kind of systematized the curriculum, and the book actually has 30 tools in it that you can apply to your life right away, your relationships right away. So
that's great, and it's funny we don't get taught these things in school, and we tend to grow up and not really know how to handle ourselves, or freak out if someone tells us no or rejects us, and find it hard to ask for what we want, all that kind of stuff. So I'm all up for building emotional intelligence, and I like the term emotional fluency as well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Do you want to say a bit about that?
Well, I want to hear from you. I've never heard that term before. Why do you like it?
Because it's about being able to move into different parts of your psyche and accept things as they arise. I was reading in your book, you talk a lot about welcoming what's there, welcoming the emotion that comes up. And I think to be able to function as a human, we need to be able to work with our emotion instead of just, cutting it off. And because whenever we cut it off, it comes out sideways. Exactly. One of my favorite things is that when we can't ask for what we want or what we need, we still have this need for those things, and we learn other strategies to get it. So, we might get really good at manipulation, for example. You ever done any manipulating, Jason?
I have. I am a human being after all.
Yeah, exactly. So what I love about emotional fluency is we can welcome these parts of our psyche and flow into them and not get stuck in it, but we can flow in and flow out. It's a bit like yoga for the emotions, I suppose.
Yeah. I use that metaphor in the book a little bit. It's like we're stretching our hearts. We're exercising our emotional muscles every time we practice conscious communication, which is like, sharing our boundaries with another person or asking directly. One of the tools that I like to give in these talks that I do, since I released the book a couple of months ago, and I'll just show it really briefly. This is Conflict Equals Energy. After years of teaching, circling, and authentic relating, I kind of came to this phrase, which is making clear and vulnerable requests. So this is what I would call a master tool. So a lot of what authentic relating is about is owning your experience. Like you're saying, if we don't own our experience, if we don't first welcome our experience, it comes out sideways. And so learning to own more, I like the phrase, own your energy, or taking responsibility for your energy or your experience, right? That's really stage one. That's almost like grade school for conscious communication. If you really want to go to high school or college, you notice a need that you have, and instead of making it someone else's responsibility, you make a clear and vulnerable request. But every time we do that, we're opening ourselves up to a no. And so what do? We communicate subtly. We communicate sideways with body language or dropping hints or,
Telepathy is quite a big one as well, isn't it? Just expecting they'll know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the tools I like to give, because anytime you can make a clear and vulnerable request, you're actually, so the book is called Conflict Equals Energy. Well, there's all these ways we can prevent conflict or the messiness of conflict by taking responsibility for what we want in the world and being, I like saying being the emotional maturity we want to see in the world.
I love that. I love that. And there's this part about taking responsibility, knowing our rights and having our rights, but also having the responsibility to feel our feelings, to own our desires. And let's go into a bit about actually conflict, because we're living in a very polarized world right now. So let's stress test some of your ideas about conflict resolution. Okay, there's a number of topics that will just get instant polarization. So, Trump, Biden, for example, or abortion, or so many of these things. So what tools would you have to try and close the gap between two people who are willing to meet and talk with each other, but who have very polarized ideas?
Well, listening can heal anything, I believe. Like, we can grow in our listening skill throughout our entire life. So that's really stage one, is like a sincere desire to listen deeper. And what are we listening to? If we're listening deeper, we're listening to more than the content of the words or the perspective. We're listening to the values underneath. And so even if I completely disagree with you politically around one thing, if I learn to say, oh, Adam is really wanting to protect the people around him, and that protection is a form of love, right? People with traditional mindsets or more conservative mindsets, that's a form of love. They're trying to protect and conserve the values that they see in the world, the people that they care about. Sting has this song, "The Russians love their children too," right? Like,
that's a great example, though, because what I like about NVC, nonviolent communication, it talks about leaning into what is the need behind this thing that's happening. What's the need behind the conflict? So I'm really big on that, and I agree that with listening we can help to get there. And I just think it's so important, Jason. The reason I started Togetherness in the first place was after the Brexit vote, and I thought there's no way that everyone's going to just hold hands and agree that we found the one true belief system that works.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So it's nice to find the humanity and listen to the needs that are underneath, because ultimately they're all the same human needs: the need for safety, the need for love, the need to be seen, etc. But it can be hard to hold that space in someone else if you're in a situation of conflict, if you're feeling threatened. I notice you talk a lot about safety in the book.
Yeah, because our nervous system is designed to have safety at all costs. So if we have to make someone other, and we have to put them into a box, and we have to attack their views to make ourselves feel safe, all of us will do it. We have this idea in personal growth cultures, or even more progressive cultures, that a person is more evolved if they can take on more perspectives and make room and care for all more groups of people. And this is absolutely true, but all of us have a nervous system that's been wired for hundreds of thousands of years for safety first.
I love that phrase you used. I might borrow that, if I may: safety at all cost.
Yeah,
that's such a nice way to describe it, and to take away. I think there's often feelings of shame and guilt and blame around our lack of action or sovereignty in situations. So to understand that we're totally hardwired for this safety at all cost, I think is a really nice way of putting that.
So in authentic relating, the first two teachings are welcome everything, which we talked about, welcoming our experience, welcoming a situation, And that's part of the thesis of the book, is that if you feel conflict or tension with someone else, whether that's a roommate or a loved one, or a family member at Thanksgiving, we have a holiday here tomorrow in the States. If you feel a conflict or a tension with someone at work, that's the universe trying to tell you, hey, pay attention, you have something to learn here. And the first thing we need to do is welcome everything, which is bringing openness to the situation. And the second thing is assume nothing. And this is like the trickiest part of authentic relating, because in a way it's impossible to assume nothing. Our brains are constantly making expectations or assumptions. If someone tells you not to have expectations, or that they don't have expectations in a relationship, I think that's kind of BS.
That's the worst thing, when you ask someone, what do you want to do? Whatever you want. That's the worst thing. That doesn't make for a good relationship.
Yep. The way I like to say it is, like, our brains are organic supercomputers. We're constantly extrapolating everything that's happened in our past and rapidly pattern matching it about what's happening here in the present moment, and extrapolating into the future to either secure more resources, or guard our own safety, or guard the values or the people that we love. And we can't help but do that. So what does assume nothing mean? It simply means to notice this action of the nervous system to make assumptions and expectations, and be willing to check them out, to slow down and ask questions about, I think you're doing this for this motivation. Is that true? And being open to being wrong. That's another way to say assume nothing.
Yeah, that's so important, being open to being wrong. And there's definitely times when I do not feel open to being wrong.
You might be human, right?
Yeah, exactly. So let's finish up by talking a bit about the role of playfulness, because these are authentic relating games. They're not authentic relating, exercises. So playfulness feels really important to me in the way that we can open up the field and relate to people. And I think in a lot of spiritual self-development places, they take themselves too seriously, and they miss this whole piece of the holy fool and Hafiz and Kabir and Rumi just laughing and giggling, and because it is serious, but it's also not serious. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to hold both spaces at the same time. Why is it games? Why is it authentic related games?
Yeah, in a way, I think it was by accident. And then I came up with a really good reason later on when I wrote the book. So part 2 of the book, part 3 is about handling conflict and tension in our relationships. Part 2 is called Games to Grow Emotional Intelligence. And I think that's because playfulness is the main way that we learn. Anytime we are judgmental towards ourselves or others, we're canceling out possibilities, and that limits learning. And anytime we feel safe to make a mistake, learning can occur at a faster rate. And so authentic relating games, I have 12 of them in the book, which I call the core games, that teach like the core principles like presence and appreciation and humility and dignity and all these different things that we have. But there's actually hundreds and hundreds of games out there, and individual communities can invent new ones at any point, or adapt the ones that have been created. And so authentic relating games was originally this movement that started maybe 7, 8 years ago. And it's spread all over because anyone can train, in just a short amount of time to lead one of these in their living rooms, or and there literally are hundreds of people leading authentic relating games online on Zoom now. And the design of it is to create community. Mm-hmm. It's to have people feel seen and heard and reflected, and be able to create nourishing social relationships. And what happened as this essential human need started to get met through the authentic relating communities is this side benefit started happening very often, which was people would recover from social anxiety. Mm-hmm. People would learn how to set boundaries. People would learn how to advocate for themselves more. They would, start to be more successful in their careers because they were growing in emotional intelligence through just a few months of this practice. And so the leaders started to notice, it's like, oh wow, this is a thing. It's more than just community building that we're doing.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Well, I think we can finish up here. I would love to talk to you about clowning, because my background is a clown, and I found a lot of these clowning games bring you into deep presence and deep sensitivity, and can confront you with deep pain as well. I'll just give one example. Have you ever done the game where there's 4 of you at the back of the stage, and you're only allowed to walk? There's a shoe at the front of the stage, mm-hmm. and you're only allowed to walk forward when you feel like the audience loves you. And so the whole time you're looking and sensing, and you're thinking, do they love me? And for a moment they might love you, and you walk forward, and then you get cocky, and then you can feel it. They instantly stop loving you. So you develop this sensitivity and this exquisite pain as well. I love those games. I think they're really fun, but they can be a bit intense for if you just want to have a really, really nice time.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variety of games, and some of them kind of are similar to exercises you would do in a depth psychology program or something, and some of them are similar to theater improv games like the one that you're talking about. But theater improv can be really, really deep work as well. I want to try that one.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Well, Jason, thanks for coming on. And Jason's going to be hosting some authentic relating games after this call. There's a link in the description there, so do come and join us. And thanks so much for coming on, Jason. And your book is out and available now at all good bookstores. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just show it again?
Yeah, so it's available on our website and Amazon. You can get the ebook version as well, and the paperback. And so we'll include the link.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Adam.
Cheers. Bye.